Welcome to the Golden Mike podcast, where personal growth simply isn't enough. I'm your host, Mark Cordone, a positive psychology coach, a do-gooder from the island of misfit toys who founded the Joy Revolution. Each week I'll wrap with an extraordinary guest doing extraordinary things through their own revolutionary work to talk about the ups, downs, and all-arounds of life. It's my mission to provoke and empower you through increased joy and inspire you to spark your own revolution to change history for the better. Welcome to the most serious happiness podcast in this multiverse. Welcome to the Golden Mike podcast. So, here we are now. Mm-hmm. We did a couple businesses. We painted houses for a while. You even co-ran it with your wife, right?
Yeah.
A very high-end painting company that you ran with artistry, right?
Definitely.
Here we are in 2015, and this coaching thing came up for you. What drove the decision to be like, all the experiences that I've gone through, from being that boy in the shower to now, I think have informed me to go jump into this coaching thing?
Dude, it was so much less conscious than that, or it's conscious maybe in a different way. Honestly, man, at the time, I didn't even really know coaching was a thing. Not really. I knew who Tony Robbins was.
I call bullshit because you're in California.
I wasn't,
Everyone's a coach there.
You're right. No, but I was in North Carolina at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, there's coaches there's coaches fucking everywhere, but It wasn't the world that I was in, truly, man. It just wasn't. Yeah. I knew who Tony Robbins was, and I think I had a sort of vague idea that there were coaches. Didn't even really know what that meant, but the circumstances were, at the time I was leading 4-day meditation retreat workshops, and it was one of my mentors. It was his body of work. So it's really deep meditative experiences, studying, exploring consciousness and what we're capable of as humans. It was awesome. It was really profound. I loved doing it. And what I noticed was, with the people I was with, the work is really profound. And this is not a comment on the work itself. But the people I was with, they would have these profound breakthroughs in meditation and talking about shit. And then they weren't understanding how to apply that to their lives. So their lives, their businesses, their relationships weren't really changing a lot of the time. At least not in the way that I felt inspired to help people make change. So again, I'm not shitting on that body of work at all. It's profound. It changed my life. But it just, something was clicking and I just kept hearing, feeling, sensing like, bro, you're here to do your thing in the world. And as awesome as this isn't your thing. It's someone else's thing. And you need a situation where you get to work one-on-one with people and really help them get under the hood of what's been going on and help them move forward. So I just kept feeling that, man, honestly. And I just one day decided like, all right, I need to create a context for me to do that within. And I remember where I was sitting when I did it, and I made my Squarespace website and I put coaching and then that was that. But as I said, as you said, we were still running this other business. So it actually took me several more years to actually just coach, because I didn't have the self-confidence, man, to go like, that's it. I'm coaching. I know I can help people and I know I can earn the money I need to. So that was very much a process for me. But I knew deep down, this is what I did know, is if I could sit with someone and they were really ready and willing to make change and really ready and willing to be honest with themselves and with me, I could show them how to do whatever it is they wanted to do. I don't know where that confidence came from. It wasn't really through lived experience, but something in me just knew like, that's what I'm here to do. And that's what I'm going to do.
It sounds very similar to how you knew you were going to meet your wife.
Yes.
With that kind of conviction.
Yes.
And belief.
Yeah.
That it's just like, I don't know where, when it's going to happen.
You know, it's funny with both, man. You're right. It's a very astute observation. What's funny with both was like, I had an absolute certainty of both, that I was sort of destined for both or here for both. And I felt this like overwhelming self-doubt with both as well.
Well, you know what's really interesting is that in in the coaching space, it's they talk a lot about the power of belief.
Yes.
And that there almost is zero room for self-doubt in it. And it's almost as if you're saying something that's maybe either a little bit of different, or you just weren't ready yet. It just wasn't ready to come in your life yet.
Yeah. I was not ready yet. Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very, very super, super interesting stuff. And I think I really appreciate the fact that you brought that up, because I think many people will put mega pressure to believe in something and almost fake it till you make it believe, because there's so much pressure. And then you talked earlier on about really that process of surrendering. It can be the precursor for it can be a little bit wonky at times, right? But when you do actually surrender, that's when it all shows up, kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
And shows up quickly.
Okay. So what was the moment in which you were like, now I am ready to coach full time?
A couple of things happened at the same time in really rapid succession. I was at a workshop with my mentor at the time, and I had
is this your meditation mentor?
No.
This is okay.
No, it's in the coaching world. Okay. I was at a workshop with him, and I had just had the biggest month in my coaching business, and I was like going more and more towards coaching and less painting. But still, if I was in a pickle financially, I'd look to painting. It felt more certain for some reason. And I'd had the biggest month in my coaching business, but I still just felt so stuck. I didn't feel like I knew how I did it. I didn't feel like I trusted myself to do it again. Like, it was almost more painful that it had happened.
Right. It's like it's almost like I've definitely heard that before, where it's like, I think I got lucky on that one.
Yeah.
Say that.
One, it's almost more painful if you can taste it and touch it and see it, but it feels like you'll never get to again, or there's the fear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I remember it was a break, and usually on the breaks he would sort of like go backstage or do his thing. Like, he wasn't available, but he happened to just be right there. And I went to ask him something, I don't remember what. And the second I started talking to him, I just started weeping, like uncontrollable weeping. I don't think any words came out. It was blabbering, bluthering. Like, he was very patient. And what happened for me was, like, for whatever reason, I was willing to be more honest with myself about how I actually felt, which was like incredibly frustrated, filled with self-doubt, so angry that I knew I was holding myself back with that self-doubt, and just really confused how to go forward. Like, I was at a place of real maximum pain and discomfort. So that happened, and
that was something that you weren't willing to look in the mirror and
I thought I had, bro, honestly. Like, I always, I thought I was doing it. I thought I knew all that stuff, and I think I did intellectually. Yeah. But I think there was a part of me that wasn't willing to actually feel it and to really go like,
you weren't embodying it. You were it off here.
Totally.
Yeah. And when I say here, listeners, it's the neck.
And so it was the first time I allowed myself, and we all do this. We all allow ourselves to be aware enough of the pain to stay where we are, but not use it to move further. So we'll use it and we'll go, this sucks, I hate this, to keep our focus on the pain, but we won't let ourselves feel it enough that it actually transforms us. That was a moment, by whatever grace of the universe, where I did feel it enough, because I didn't intend to. So it all came fucking roaring out. Shortly after, I met a coach that I really wanted to work with, and I knew it just in my guts, man. I knew it. Like, when everyone has their own way of perceiving, when I know something, I just know it, and there's like nothing will ever change that, and nothing could. And I knew that. And I was on a sales call with her to join a program of hers. It was $25,000, a group program for 6 months. And I had like $500 and some odd dollars in my bank account, and like nothing on credit cards or anything. And I knew I had to do it. And I remember it was a phone call, and I was like doubled over, man. I thought I was going to puke, literally. It was like in so much pain, so much resistance showing up in my body, because I knew I was going to do it. And my subconscious was fucking freaking out. So I put down like half my money as a deposit. And the agreement was I was going to come up with $5,000 like in the next 24 hours, because $250 as a deposit to a $25,000 program is, it's not much. So I agreed to coming up with that deposit, and I was like so inspired, but fucking terrified. And I just chose in a very simple way to surrender around it and just go, look, I'm not going to use this to beat myself up. I'm going to really see like how awesome I can make this. Because in my past, I would have maybe agreed to that challenge, but then beat myself up immediately that it wasn't going to happen, and then use the fact that it didn't happen to feel shitty about myself. So I just decided, like, look, however this goes, I'm going to really go for it, and I'll at least know that I went for it, and I'm not going to use it as a weapon against myself to feel shitty, to feel shame and guilt. I'm just not going to do it.
That in and of itself was disruptive.
Oh, that was the win right there, homie.
Yeah,
right.
That in and of itself was disruptive.
Everything after that was a cool byproduct, but you're right. That was the moment that created the disruption to allow a totally different result.
And so that's when you robbed a man in the streets of Philadelphia for that 5,000.
Exactly. I did not think you'd be able to find that story. I thought I wiped the internet clean of that.
Page 37 on Google when you Google search it.
So that happened, and the next day I had $6,500, which was already the most I had ever made in a month, and I had it overnight, and it was so easy the way it came in. Now I took action. It wasn't like a bag of cash fell in my lap, but all I did was just go like, cool, what are the opportunities? There must be people here right around me who want to work with me, who are interested in buying my services. I had a couple names come up. I just sent a text or a messenger. It wasn't even phone calls. It was that easy. $6,500 the next day. And 5 days later, I had made $11,500. I had wanted to make $10,000 in a month in my business for 2 years previous to that. And I had no fucking idea how to do it. And it happened in 5 days. So something popped in that moment. I really saw what I was capable of doing. And I got a new result really quickly. Because that's the idea here, is like, the belief is really interesting, but it's when we get a new result that our beliefs really change.
Yeah. Now, how much did you getting this result compare and contrast with you having that the best cash in month prior to that? Because we know what your feelings were about that first month. Like,
but cash wise, what was the equivalent?
Not equivalent, but like sort of. You were talking about sort of your emotional state.
Oh, I understand what you're asking. Yeah. I was on top of the world, dude. Something had changed.
So it was absolutely transformational.
Yes, because it wasn't. No, it was not. I got lucky because I knew what I had done. Now I didn't know that I could 1,000% replicate it all the time, but it wasn't just like I got a random phone call out of the blue. I knew that I had said, I'm going to make $5,000 in the next 24 hours. And I had decided I wasn't going to treat myself like shit if it happened or didn't happen, nor was I going to make myself right if it did happen or didn't happen. Like, it was just going to be neutral. Oh. I wasn't using it as a condition upon which to judge myself. And I had never done that before.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the self-doubt this time? I might have missed it, but was self-doubt there, or were you like,
no, it wasn't, again, because I knew what I had done.
Okay.
Like, all I had done was go like, I made a decision. I'm bringing this in. And I also made a decision. I'm not going to use this as a weapon against myself. Those two things together, I'm going to follow the universal laws. I know the opportunity's here. It has to be because I have a desire. I'm just going to let this be really easy.
Yeah.
And then I started to get ideas. I'll call. Okay, I'll make this call, email that person. And then money came in. So I knew what I had done. Therefore, the self-doubt, I'm not saying it didn't creep back in at certain points, but in that moment, I was actually able to appreciate it and go, holy shit, I get the calculus here. I understand how this just worked.
Yeah, it's almost like you can do an autopsy and completely understand every single move that you made.
Yes.
And how, there was a chain reaction that you created.
Totally. Like, have you ever read or listened to Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins? Came out last year. It's really popular.
Yeah.
But he talks about doing it when you make a mistake, but I think it's equally powerful to do it as when you have a great win. He calls like doing a post-mortem on it, doing the autopsy. And yeah, just going back and reverse engineering what happened. This is the result. How'd I get there? And it's absolutely crucial to do in failures, but I think it's really important to do for wins, because when we have a win and we don't really know how we got it, if we're willing to put the time in, we can always reverse engineer to actually understand the moving parts and what led to it. And once we can do that, there isn't really room for self-doubt anymore. Not really.
No, why didn't you, or maybe you did, why didn't you just reverse engineer that first month that you had that was...
I didn't have the self-awareness to even do it, man. Something had changed. Like, I was still, when that first month happened, man, I was still in the program of like using it. I had weaponized it against myself. Well, that's cool that it happened, but what if it never happens again? It's cool if it happened, but I have no idea how it fucking... Man. I had already decided unconsciously that I was going to use that win to beat the shit out of myself.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting? You know what's really interesting is when you talk about this Tristan, and maybe it's a persona that you're putting on now. I'd like to think not, because I've interviewed you 3 damn times already.
Tricked you, buddy.
Yeah. But I don't see that person.
Which person, Mark?
The person that you describe a few years ago, the Tristan from a few years ago.
Which the one that's filled with self-doubt and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like almost like I have a hard time imagining that. And it's not like I see you as this person who's, completely self-doubt free, but there's a presence and a self-assuredness that you've always had. Our damn internet will go crazy on a show, and then I'll just be like, dude, run the show for a second while and you'll do it. And I'd like to think that was the reason why you now have a show on Roku. But
that's the one reason I do.
But when you look back at that person, how much or how little, or is it still the same? Do you identify with him?
I do identify. He's still there. He still shows up. But here's what's so interesting, Mark. Like, I've always had, I think this is true for all of us when we finally really uncovered like who we are and what we're here to do. You can see traces of that person through your whole history. So I've always had that part that would just fucking step in and handle business and really could trust myself. But he would only come out in like tiny, tiny moments in really unpredictable ways. So like music is a really good example. I was like really insecure that whole time, but something would click in when I'd be on the bandstand and shit just had to go right where I could access that part. So I think what has happened for me is as I have learned more and more how to source my self-esteem, my safety, my love from within myself rather than from conditions, I'm able to allow that part of me, the one who is confident, knows who the fuck I am, knows how God operates to and through me. I'm able to allow that part to be forward facing and handling my life much more often. So if you were with me 24 hours away, it's 24 hours a day. It's like you'd see the insecure. Like my wife sees it all, man. There's fucking gruesome moments where I'm crippled with self-doubt. They just occur less and less.
Well, what was the last moment that you were crippled with self-doubt?
That's a really good question. I'm going to answer you, and I think this answers your question. If not, we can like find another example. But this is really recently, man. Last month, I had the biggest month I've ever had in my business by a long shot. It was also the easiest month I ever had in my business, meaning I understood what I did. I did it with ease. I did it with grace. It was really fun. I had amazing people coming to me wanting help. It was fun. It was just easy. There was no grinding and hustling. I worked hard, but there's no grinding and hustling. That happened. I was like, that was fucking great. And almost immediately, my subconscious made a problem out of it. What if you can't replicate that again? So it's the same shit, man. We just talked about this 5 minutes ago.
Absolutely.
You asked me what was the difference when I went from 6K a month to 11 and a half. At 6K, I was going, I don't know if I can replicate this. At 11 and a half, I knew I could for some reason.
Yeah.
But I had like 24 hours after this big win where I was looking at my numbers for the month going, wow, that was fucking great. And then something clicked in that really, really pulled on my self-doubt. Because, the more we rise,
amazing,
the farther we are from the ground. Not really, but that's what it looks like. The more we rise and we go, oh, fuck, if I fall, that's like a lot farther.
Yeah.
Shit. So that was like a week ago, whenever it was.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. I love breaking these myths that like, oh, you shatter that once and it's over, and it's almost like, there's this theory that I absolutely love that you reminded me of when you were talking about sort of the structure and the kind of improvisation of jazz. It's a theory called panarchy, and essentially what it is on one end it's this remembrance of things. So it's either going back to childlike wonderment, or it's remembering the structure in which life actually works. And on the other end, it's the revolt. It's the revolt of the subconscious it's telling the subconscious, go fuck yourself, man.
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to do right now. And so I'm going to revolt, or I'm going to shed you totally. And then when you actually plot it was really fascinating. When you plot it, it forms the infinity symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't think it's any any coincidence that it turns out being this is sort of the way that life always will go, is between this remembrance and revolt, or this structure and this improvisation.
Yes.
It's this balance between things. And so I really love the fact that people see our outward personas, which are very close to our inner personas. But then there's another part that, if nobody asks, you might not be talking about it, like, I was crippled last month, or stuff like that. So I appreciate that.
Oh, of course, man. I can I share a story, man, that I think is really apropos to that.
Of course.
When I first started working with my mentor, it was probably sometime in 2016, I think. I was talking to someone who was also working with him, and she was working with them high level one-on-one, and she had massive success really quickly. She'd gone from like being a math teacher to restarting her coaching business to making over 6 figures per month, well under a year, and was helping people at this tremendous level. And I got on a call with her to just ask her some questions. And this moment will stick with me the rest of my life. I remember saying to her, like, it must be amazing at the level of success you're at. I mean, the money sounds cool. I'm sure it's really fun, but it must be amazing that if you're consistently doing that, you must really know, like, you're good at what you do. Like, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to doubt yourself. You don't have to be filled with anxiety and self-doubt and fear. And she started laughing. I really remember it. And she's like, dude, what are you talking about? She's like, that's not how this works. Like, if you're doing this so you don't have to feel those things anymore, it's going to be a very long, painful road. I remember the example she used, man. She said, listen, my life's amazing. She's like, I love it. I love what's going on. It's getting better and better and better. It's awesome. So that being said, she said, for instance, I want to go buy a Maserati. Should I really want that? Like, in my heart, I just feel so excited about that. And I can financially. Things are amazing. I'm so blessed to be able to do that. So there should be no problem. But she said, here's the thing. One of the things I've had to really heal, to allow this kind of success into my life, is all the stories I've carried around since childhood. And what are my parents going to think? What are my siblings going to think? That's been so painful for me. And I've had to do so much work on it. She said, so I want this Maserati. I could do it today. It would be no problem. And it would bring me so much joy. I'd love it. She said, but I also know that I'm going to eventually pull up at my parents' house in a Maserati and have to deal with what they're going to say about it. And that the level of fear that triggers in me is so profound. So she had this massive level of success working on this very issue to allow that success in, but there was still elements of it there that she knew could get triggered.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which could send you in a downward spiral.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's like, no matter how amazing things are getting, we have to always be aware and really honest with ourselves that there's like a part of us that wants to stop that forward progress at all times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's such an awesome thing that you brought up. I wanted to go back to just talk about that shedding for a second of when you were at the conference, or you were at the big workshop, and you essentially talked about being I lost my notes, damn it. Oh, there you go. You talked about being frustrated, having self-doubt, and being angry. When did that start to go away?
That's a great question, man. I don't know that it hasn't totally gone away. Those things certainly still show up, as that story I shared a little while ago, evidence. They started to lessen a lot the more honest I was willing to be with myself. And this is what I mean by that. I knew, even before I had that breakdown with my mentor, I knew that something internal to me was causing the results I was getting. I knew that. The frustrating part was I thought I knew what it was, and I thought I understood how to get around it, but I didn't. So what allowed me to really have that breakthrough is I was just more honest with myself in that moment and after about what was really going on. And honestly, man, every time I've had a big financial leap in my business, and it's happened a couple times where I'll like double my income from month to month. So the growth has been really quick. It's always, every single time, it's been predicated and built on sitting here at my desk or on the couch or wherever, and just really being more honest with myself than I've ever been, taking off the blinders and going, dude, what if you're creating your reality, which you know you are, what are you not seeing in yourself that's creating this ceiling for yourself? And that's the last thing we ever want to do with ourselves, in a way. We always want to hide that. So the more honest I've been willing to be with myself and to learn how to get under the hood and bypass the subconscious's attempts to keep me blind to myself, the more I can see that A, I'm the one creating my reality, and B, if that's true, if I'm willing to see what's really going on that's creating that false ceiling, if I'm willing to have that level of honesty and ruthlessness with myself and seeing the truth, I will always see a way to take where I am and go forward. Meaning, I mean, a simpler way to say it would just be this, like, the more honest I'm willing to be with myself, the more I realize that I'm the active agent here in my life, no matter what's going on externally. I can figure out a way to take it forward because that way always exists. I just have to be willing to see it. So the more that happens, it's like built much more of a trust in myself and a faith in myself.
Now, do you think that with some of these things, the becoming even more honest with yourself could have been something that wouldn't, or something that would have happened with or without a coach or a mentor?
I don't, man. I got to be honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not saying I wouldn't have like grown and changed as a human, but you know, I've always been like a pretty introspective person, but to a degree. So I was always like looking at myself, wondering what's going on, but they're blind spots for a reason. You know, we call them that for a reason. Like I literally, man, could not see the way that I was essentially fucking myself over.
Wow.
I just couldn't see it, man. And one of the reasons I couldn't see it, and this is true for all of us, we're so emotionally invested in not seeing it. Because if we don't see it, we get to stay where we are. And the subconscious knows that. So it wields our emotions masterfully, like the maestro conducting a 100-piece orchestra symphony. It knows how to bring the fear up just perfectly to get you to not see the thing, or the shame or the guilt or whatever it is. So I'm not saying I wouldn't have grown, but I remember specific things said to me by specific mentors and coaches in certain moments that, boom, everything woke up in me. So I don't know, you know, because all I've lived is my life, but I know for 30 whatever years I lived without that, and things didn't really change. And the second I really brought it in.
Have you ever seen a case of someone who has done it without?
I guess it depends on what we define as it. Have I seen people grow without mentorship? Certainly. Have I seen people make more money without it? Certainly.
Sure. That kind of quantum, internal, and service explosion almost.
I haven't, man. I'm not saying it's not possible. And I'll rack my brain to see it, because I don't want to say something that's not true. But the people who are in my life and my world who have made these huge quantum leaps financially and otherwise, and also in their service to the world, all of them have people in their corners. And honestly, man, I really like studying people's stories and lives. So I do a lot of reading around like what brought people to where they are. And when you study really high performing people in any industry, everyone has people in their corner.
Yeah.
Everyone. Like one of my favorite books I think we've talked about is Relentless by Tim Grover. And he was Jordan's trainer, Kobe's trainer, Dwayne Wade's trainer. Like he trained the best of the best of the best. They're all people who are already the best. And they were looking going, I know I could be better, and I'm not going to figure it out on my own.
That's amazing. Yeah. Hey, it's Mark. I hope you're digging the Golden Mike podcast. If you have or are just starting your own revolution fueled by joy, there's a site I created for you. If you, like me, believe that personal growth is simply not enough, if you, like me, are committed to changing history for the better in both micro and macro ways, check out joyrevolution.com. In there, you'll find an archive of our over 200 Golden Mike Live Facebook shows, and of course, our podcast that you're currently listening to. Check out the blogs highlighting how positive psychology and joy theory apply to your everyday life. There's even some cool clips from our Joy Revolution course geared towards influencers, speakers, writers, and change agents. It's all there. Go to joyrevolution.com. That's joyrevolution.com. Let's get back to the episode. So I've got a couple more questions here.
Hit me.
You're talking about growing a lot, you know, and I think about growth as this sort of individual journey. And I know you even will talk about it from like hero origin stories, right? Mm-hmm. Like you'll be like look at a hero, and they'll start from a place of needing to overcome something. They're not born as a hero. They kind of allow it to happen, or they overcome something. Now, with your own growth and and the growth of your wife, and you've been together for 14 years, is there ever self-doubt that you two will grow in different directions? Or is that something that is not? Is that something that you have to be conscious of? Or I mean, I'm just kind of thinking about it because growth can take you in a lot of different paths. And then the next thing you know, it's like, I'm not the same guy. And what do I do now? Because I love this person so much.
Well, I want to answer both personally, but I also want to answer, I guess, in a more universal way that might be more applicable. Because I know that everyone's situation is not my own. So I knew, man, when my wife and I got together, I could feel the capacity for growth in each. Like I knew we were in it for the long game. Having said that, so I see a lot of couples that get together and then one person wakes up in their desire for personal development and growth. The other does not, or is just not interested. And the trajectory is really different. So I've certainly seen that. We could speak to it. For me, I knew that my wife was as invested in her own growth as I was in my own. So I never had, and I haven't yet had, this overarching fear that like, what if we just grow in completely separate directions? It's very clear our trajectories are going to be really similar. But having said that, it doesn't mean we're always growing at the same rate at the same time. Like I said, she and I split up for a time, how long ago? 6 or 7 years ago. And it was incredibly painful, man. It was really, at that time, it was terrifying to me. It was really, really, really scary. So at that time, it's funny though, because you can ask her, at that time, I still had this belief that we were going to be together. And it was separate from the part of me that was just scared to be alone. That part existed and was like clinging to her. And I had to do a lot of work around that. But separate from that, there was this whole other part that I was just like, this is shenanigans. What's going on here? We have to work this stuff out. Definitely. This is real shit. But like, we both know the deal here. We both know we came to go the long haul together. So for whatever reason, I've always had a great faith in that between my wife and I, even when we're in a lot of pain together, or we're butting heads, or she's growing super fast and I'm really resistant, or the opposite's happening. Because we've seen it all at this point, all the different iterations this can take. So that's, for me personally, that's what it's been like. For other people though, that I have had the honor to witness up close, we don't always grow at the same rate. And like, we never really know what a relationship's lifespan is, even though we think it might be forever. And one of the things that I think is really helpful is to just remember and do whatever work we have to do, that like, we're not safe, we're not whole, we're not complete because we're with another person. And as much as we intellectually know that, emotionally, that shit hooks us at the deepest level, the deepest fear of abandonment we can possibly carry. That's why breakups are so painful. It's why people stay together for so long when they're not supposed to be together anymore, etc. So I really just advocate for someone to be really, really, really aware of that, of how much, if they're having a really hard time with a breakup or seeing that shit is just going the other way with them and their partner, to really be careful, like where they're plugging in and trying to get their needs met. And to also help someone build trust in what they're here to do and whatever their path is taking them, that they will have that love and support along that path, because nothing exists if it's not nurtured and it's not taken care of. So when we follow our path, it's like the love we desire is always going to be there for us if we're willing to do what's required and let go of what's required. So I know it's a little bit of a roundabout answer, but I think it speaks to what you asked.
Not at all. I think it makes complete and total sense. And I love the fact that you have used multiple examples, not only your own. So I don't know if you have read this book. It's called Love 2.0.
I haven't.
Very rad book. It's philosophy, neuroscience, and it totally refutes that Hollywood ending right off into the sunset type of those relationships. And essentially what it says is, every time we see somebody, and including you and I, and that we're looking at each other over Skype, you start to mimic them a little bit in the way that your speech pattern, like if they're talking slow, you'll slow down, or they'll speed up for you. You'll start seeing the head nods happening. When one smiles, the other smiles, right? Not you right now, because you're resisting that. So Robert Downey Jr. right there. I'm going to post that face. And then what happens is mirror neurons start to fire. And both of us feel mirror neurons at the same time. And so it's a shared sense of joy, which is love, right? And oxytocin then gets released, which is the feel-good hormone. And so love is actually experienced in micro moments. And so to grow and to experience love in micro moments is this very cool thing in which you get to constantly fall in love, or not fall in love, but you constantly get to experience love in micro moments. You're with someone for 14 years, millions of times, or if you're just speaking to somebody on a podcast, you experience micro moments of love several times. And it's almost like you never know when, the mirror neurons stop firing or anything like that. But it's cool. There's a timestamp on it sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just outgrow one person or another. And it's not even in romantic relationships. Yeah. Like with friendships. So I love that, like you talked about at the beginning, science is always there kind of showing like to the core we are getting lit up by things. I've got one final question for you, and then we're going to play the speed round of the podcast, right? So we're gonna do some improvisation of our own at that point. I've heard many people, and I've heard you and multiple times in both your show and your even today. You talked about effort earlier when you were talking about relationships. And then I've heard you specifically say, if you do the work. What do you mean by the work?
I can't remember the exact context I use it in. So I think what I'm about to say, I meant each time, but I just want to put that caveat in there. Okay. So I meant something different in one of those moments. The work is just this being honest with ourselves about everything, about absolutely everything, meaning where we feel deficient, where we're trying to get our needs met by other people, where we're addicted to certain emotions and thoughts. And the truth is the truth, man. There's a billion ways or innumerable ways to perceive the truth, but the truth is the truth. Everything is here. It's created by a single source. Everything is fucking here, which means we're capable of literally anything. So the truth is, if we don't like what we're experiencing, it's on us to change that.
Gotcha.
And it's never someone else's fault when we're unhappy or we're sad. Doesn't matter what I have to. She doesn't make me happy or sad. That's my choice.
Oh, I love it. And that's what you mean by when you get into that mindset of you really being accountable for being the person that can change things. Now it's time to change it. And that's the work.
Yeah. And yeah.
Leading up to that, it's doing work to change your mindset.
Yeah. And the reason I say it's work is because there's so much momentum in us from our programming through our whole life going the other direction, saying things can't change. My life sucks. I'm destined for this. I'm not good enough. Whatever the thing is we use to hold ourselves back. There's so much momentum, and none of that is actual personal responsibility or accountability.
So would you go and say that before you ever reach the grace, ease, and joy, that you – okay, how about this? How does grace, ease, and joy and doing the work like compare or contrast with each other?
They're the same thing.
Because I've definitely had more than one person come to me and say, you told me that this would be filled with grace, ease, and joy, and now you're saying work.
Yeah. Or like you told me that it doesn't fucking feel graceful and easy and joyful right now. This sucks. Right. I fucking hate this. So the reason I'm saying they're the same thing is because the only time we're ever not experiencing those things is when we're in resistance. Like the work itself isn't fucking hard or inherently painful. Like I'll do this with people all the time when they're like, I feel so angry or so scared right now. I'm like, okay, great. Just actually feel what that feels like. That's just a literal vibration in your body. Everything is vibration, including our bodies. Anger is just energy vibrating at a particular frequency. It doesn't mean anything. It just feels a certain way because it's energy vibrating at a very unique frequency. Just fucking feel it. And the second someone's willing to do that, I cannot tell you how many people have sat on the couch right behind me or in a chair in this office who have had the exact same experience, where once they actually are willing to feel something, not think they're feeling it and tell a story about why they're angry and why shit never works, but actually just feel the anger. Every time they're like, oh okay. That's what it feels like. It's not a big deal. Absolutely. The big deal, the hard part is getting ourselves into a state where we're actually willing to just be present with the thing. Because once we're present, things change really quickly just by being present with them.
That's so fucking good, man. That's so fucking good.
So once we're in that, I just want to be clear, like once we're actually willing to be with the thing we've resisted being with, the being with it itself isn't hard or painful. It's not. It's how much we make it a boogeyman, like we were talking about earlier. Ahead of time, go, oh shit, this is going to suck. It's so scary. It never changes. I'm an asshole. My mom's a bitch. Whatever the story is we're telling ourselves.
Yeah.
That's where all the pain is. Once we just take a breath, it's like, oh, anger feels sharp and hot in my solar plexus. Okay, great.
Yeah, to embody it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
I've never seen someone so chill about being angry. It's not a big deal. I'm angry.
You should see me when I'm actually angry, though. I can say all this stuff in a very scholarly way when I'm not angry.
It's a Boston accent. We know. We all know. Come on. So it's now time to play the speed round, to play a little improv, right?
Can't wait, dude.
And so this is really a nice, what you were talking about is a nice segue into what we're about to do. We're going to play Complete the Sentence. And essentially it's how you embody joy, right? And from the different senses, right? You can answer this however esoterically or tactily as you want. And you can make it as succinct or as long form as you want. It's your prose, and it's your answer, okay? And then we've got one more thing after that. So joy looks like...
Joy looks like dancing, trusting myself, making music in absolutely everything I do, and recognizing that there is always, always, always beauty to behold, no matter how painful or shitty our circumstances may look.
One for one. Joy tastes like...
Ooh, a ripe orange.
Nice. Absolutely. Nice. 2 for 2. Joy sounds like you're getting competitive. He just did a fist bump.
Fucking nailed it.
Joy sounds like
music.
Yeah. 3 for 3, brother.
And by the way, just for me, because this is like I just got a lot of information at once. That music could be like beautiful, like Chopin, just solo piano. It could be jazz. It could be Eminem, like whatever. Because all 3 of those musics stimulate me greatly, just depending on my mood, and they all bring me joy, and they all feed different parts of me. So I just want to be clear.
Amazing. You had the point and then you lost it by trying to over-explain. No, I'm just kidding. 3 for 3. The only one that you can answer wrong here is this one. It does not smell like Teen Spirit. So joy smells like...
Ooh, I'm going with lilies here.
Nice. Amazing. 4 for 4. And joy feels like...
that ease and grace we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Like the energy is stimulated with joy, right? Like you feel this activated thing, but it's so relaxed at the same time. There's no effort.
Yeah. I love it. So, you know that this, throughout this podcast, we have commercials for the Joy Revolution, which is why we jumped right into the joy, there. But so we're actually going to talk about your joy revolution right now. And that can either be the upheaval of what you've gone through or what you're going through inside in joy, or that can be sort of the movement that you're leading for social change in joy. It can be one or the other, or it can be both. So when I ask you what to complete the sentence, my joy revolution is, answer that, please.
I almost didn't take in any of the information you just said. I don't know why. None of it landed at all. So I'm just going to shoot from the hip. And
yeah. Even better.
Okay, cool. I was thinking about this a few minutes ago when we were talking about something else. My joy revolution and how I just see it for everyone is just this, like learning how to source our love internally so that it can never be taken again. That's the basis of anything I've ever done. It's the basis of why my relationship now does work. It's the antithesis of that was why my relationship and my business did not work in the past. Like joy's our birthright. All the good shit is our birthright. However, we're constantly trying to like plug into everything outside of ourselves to feel okay. And it can't work. And though we might experience fleeting joy by doing that, that umbilical cord will always be ripped out because it's not where it belongs. So for me, anything that's allowed me, like to the degree I've had success in my business or my marriage or my friendships or anything that I have, It's like how willing I am to source love internally rather than externally, regardless of like the earthquakes that are happening in my life, my business, my relationship. So I don't even know if that answered what you asked or the sentence I was supposed to complete, but that's what's happening right now.
You absolutely answered the question because you started with my joy revolution is. How
okay,
can I
good.
judge the rest of it, man. My friend, you are 6 for 6 in the game. Congratulations. You swept the board on that one. I want to talk a little bit about your show. You launched your show, which I believe is also in podcast format.
It is.
Lift with Tristan Gutner. What called you to start using this platform, and talk a little bit about? I've watched the show, obviously, because I did.
You do your homework, yeah.
Talk a little bit about the show. Talk a little bit about what is moving you to host this. And congratulations, you're on Roku and what is it, WWTVN network.
Yep. Yeah, we're on Roku, we're on Apple TV, we're on a bunch of different platforms. And then you're right, it's the Lift is also on iTunes, Google Play, all sorts of audio versions as well.
All sponsors of the show.
Hell yeah. So easy, baby. I honestly, Mark, man, I just really like helping people, and I want to reach as many people as possible, as often as possible. And I really like the video format. I think there's something really powerful when you can see someone's eyes. I always have really liked the straight to camera format. That's the Lift is just me straight to camera. And the idea is to like debunk and demystify the art of transformation, life and business, relationship, and to take what can feel like fairly complex concepts and broad concepts and make them like really grounded and applicable. Just like, okay, we can talk about universal law, and I think it's amazing. It's helped me tremendously in my life. But like, what does it look like to actually apply the law of polarity when you need to generate $20,000 today for your business, or your marriage is falling apart and you need to really figure out why right now? So it's a format to really bring the art of transformation into these bite-sized chunks for people to take and like actually go make immediate change. Because honestly, like that's just what feels best to me. When the people in my life and around me are able to change really quickly to go from where they are to where they want to be without taking stair-step growth. For whatever reason, that's what lights me up the most. And I just wanted a format to deliver like sort of all this wisdom I've been gathering, mostly just through personal experience, sometimes very painful personal experience, to go, this is absolutely what does not work. This does work. And the second piece, dude, is this. We're just starting. I think in a few days, actually, we release the first episode in an interview series that I'll be conducting probably once a month. I haven't decided exactly. And the idea with that is to bring in like really, really, really successful people across the boundaries of entrepreneurship, entertainment, athletics, but people who are really, really well known to people all around the world. Names that you're going to go like, oh yeah, that's fucking, yeah, I know who that is. That's great. In an effort to humanize success. Because anyone we look up to or think, wow, they fucking did it, they all started just like we did. They all started just like any normal human. We all have the same thing when we land in a body. Now, yeah, certain people's circumstances are more challenging than others, but the idea here is like to get from wherever they were to where they currently are, the same principles apply and they are applicable to our lives right now. So that's my interest in bringing in those kind of guests.
That's so really cool because one of the things, and this is one of our parts of our shadow is putting people on a pedestal.
Yeah, exactly.
And to put people on pedestals or to sort of destroy those pedestals and see someone as they are is pretty liberating because it can empower somebody else to be like, that's how they worked with the law.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe they didn't even read, maybe they didn't read the law, but this is what their interpretation of it was, or this is how it was introduced to them through, there's some pretty woo basketball coaches out there.
Definitely,
the Chicago Bulls guy, so I absolutely love that. I have to ask you.
Yeah, of course, man.
You're looking at the camera quite a bit. Like
I'm actually not.
Really? Because
right now I'm not. I'm looking at you on the screen.
Oh, no. I'm talking about when you're on your show.
Oh, got it.
You're looking at the camera quite a bit with these like puppy dog eyes and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I know he has a theme for the show. Are you reading from a script, or are you just freestyle flowing?
I've tried it a couple ways, to be honest. So I've never scripted it word for word ever. That's not my style.
Sure.
I sometimes have notes that are pretty diligent and pretty in depth, where I really want to make sure I hit this point, this point, this point, this point, this point. Sometimes I tried it with absolutely no script at all. Where I've landed is like I have a couple talking points, and I'll show you my notes offline. And it's just little scribbles and arrows, like say this because it leads to this. But mostly I just have some talking points, and then I trust that whatever I say around them is going to be helpful to people. And
how do you amp yourself up for the show? Is it are you calm, collected, meditated, grounded, or are you listening to some Eminem? There goes Rabbit. There goes Rabbit. Like what are we listening to before the show?
It depends. It's actually very interesting, man. Filming in a studio is really interesting because it's not a controlled environment, meaning like it's not a studio I built where I control every aspect. So it's actually been pretty interesting and a pretty cool opportunity for me to just grow. Cause I'm a pretty controlling person, meaning like I know how I like things. And if I don't like things a certain way, I don't like them that way.
Yeah.
And in the studio, there's certain things that I just have to be cool with that are absolutely not what I would choose. So typically I would listen to shit, but I'm oftentimes in the studio and there's other people around. I try to keep conversation to a minimum, just try to keep breathing, drinking water. Mostly, honestly though, man, I don't think about it too much. And I just operate with the assumption that like I've prepared for a long time to do this and to do it effectively and in a way that can help people. So I'm going to lean on that. It's like in that book, Relentless, I was referencing, Tim Grover talks about that mindset. And he's like, when you see dudes having to hype themselves up before a game, he's like, bless them if that's what works. But he's like, I want, what's that?
The blood's rushing out of their head too.
Yeah, and he's like, listen, I want the type of killer who just doesn't have to do that because they're already in the zone. The zone is fucking automatic for them.
Yeah.
So I practice that a lot, just breathing and being like, this is just another day doing the same thing. I don't care that there's TV cameras. I don't care this is going out live around the world. Like, this is me being who I am. Nothing more, nothing less.
That's amazing. And I did want to, I did want a little bit of levity because this was absolutely not a funny episode. But
damn it.
But also at the same time, not at the same time, it was an awesome episode. But if you listen to this episode in its entirety, you will have seen Tristan discarded some patterns and kept the ones that worked for him. And kept the ones that became essentially great habits. And so the reason I asked you about the preparation for the show and how you do the show is because I see this as being an extension of your jazz performance.
Definitely.
And like there's probably chaos to not be in your own studio. There's probably times where you have to freestyle, and I can see it almost being, whether you treat it like it or not, but a return to that, okay, quick decision I have to make on the fly.
That's it, dude. And it's like trusting, and this is true for all of us, whatever context we're in. Not that we never have to learn more because we're all learning all the time, but just trusting that whatever position we're in right now, we're equipped to handle it or we wouldn't be there. So it's just, for me, it's like trusting, like, yeah, I've done the work to be able to show up and kick ass at being who I am, because it's all any of us are here to do.
I love it.
And I will say this before you do that, when I need to get myself in that zone to listen, recently I'm listening to Eminem's new album. It's just pure fire because
it's sick. It's so sick.
Yeah. It's sick, man. I specifically the track Godzilla, I just put on over and over and over and just marvel at how fucking hard that guy has worked to be able to do that. It blows my mind. So I listen to that. I'll listen to Chance the Rapper. I love Intentions by Justin Bieber. It's just the sweetest love song, and I will sing it at the top of my lungs over and over and over. It's not really a pump-up song, not in the same way Eminem is, but it helps me open up my heart, become a little more receptive. Right on. So those are my jams right now.
No Baby Shark for the daddy?
Not right now. I don't even know what Baby Shark is, man. That's how out of touch I am with
my friend. It will haunt your nightmares. It'll haunt your nightmares. Tristan Gutner, you have said enough. Until the next time you're on the episode, I have absolutely loved every moment that we've had to interact, and it's like every time you can see a little bit, we're changing a little bit, and I love growing with you, and I love being able to talk to you on deeper levels, man. Everybody, all of the links for the TV show, for Tristan's website are they're on the show notes. So go and click on those. And make sure you check out the show. It's on like every platform you can think of. Lift with Tristan Gutner. I want to thank you, Tristan, again for coming on, man. I can't wait to have you again.
Brother, thanks so much. The pleasure and honor truly is mine. And every time we get to dive in like this together, just absolute magic happens. And I love the container you've created to be able to go really, really deep together. It's a very unique format, and I think it's really called for in this space. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. Accepted, received. I appreciate that. So everybody, we got another one coming out next week. But until then, I want you to remember: revolt in light, in love, in shadows, in joy. For your sake, for my sake, for fuck's sake, for our sake, start your joy revolution. We're out of here. See ya. I hope you enjoyed the Golden Mike podcast. There's more good stuff coming your way. But until the next episode, let's stay in touch, yes? Find us on Instagram as The Joy Rev, or communicate with like-minded revolutionaries in our Facebook group. Search The Joy Revolution Underground. And of course, don't forget to check out the classes, articles, blogs, and some serious fun at joyrevolution.com. That's joyrevolution.com. Now, until then, what will you do to change history for the better? Let's go out and play, shall we? Press start to begin.